Darius Washington sat quietly at the back of the conference room. He watched as his co-workers showed their ideas for the new spaceship contract. Astral Dynamics wanted to win this big project. As one of the few black engineers at the company, Darius often felt ignored during these meetings. This happened even though he had a doctor's degree in space engine theory and 15 years of work experience. "Next up is the proposal from Engineering Team 6, said Gregory Palmer, the project lead. His voice sounded like someone who had been in charge for many years. "I believe we're hearing from Keith today?" Keith Donovan, who had only worked at the company for 3 years, stepped forward nervously. "Actually, sir, Darius has been working on something very new that I think the board should hear." Gregory raised his eyebrows slightly. "Darius? Well, that's not what I expected." He waved his hand without much interest. "Let's hear it then, but remember, we're running late." Darius walked to the display table in the center of the room. He moved calmly and with purpose. He had worked on this idea for months, running many tests on his own time after his official ideas had been put aside without anyone looking at them. "What I'm suggesting is a complete new way to think about faster-than-light travel," Darius began, turning on the display with a wave of his hand. A complex 3D diagram appeared in the air. "Instead of pushing our way through space-time, we create what I call dimension pockets that let us step sideways through higher dimensions." Gregory laughed through his nose. "That's not science, Washington. That's make-believe. We're trying to get a $2.1 billion contract here, not write a movie." Several board members laughed, but Darius kept going. "The math works out. My tests show we can use 87% less energy while going 12 times faster." "Listen," Gregory cut in, leaning forward with a face that showed fake patience. "These dream ideas might impress the new kids, but Astral Dynamics keeps its good name by using proven technology. We can't waste time on wild ideas from someone who clearly doesn't understand the real limits of space engineering." The room got very quiet. A few board members moved in their seats, looking away from both men. "With all respect, Mr. Palmer," Darius said quietly, "I believe my 15 years in this field and my published research on quantum fields shows I can make this judgment." "Published research?" Gregory laughed. "A few papers in theory journals hardly counts as real experience. We're an engineering company, not a university think tank. Now, if you don't mind, let's move on to ideas that have some basis in reality." As Darius went back to his seat, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He looked down at the screen to see a message from a number he didn't know. "Dr. Washington, this is Alan Mercer, CEO of Quantum Horizon. I'd like to talk about buying your patents before my meeting with the Astral Dynamics board tomorrow." Darius looked up, his face showing nothing as the meeting went on without him. The next morning, Astral Dynamics' main office was busy with activity. The yearly shareholder meeting was set for 10 a.m., and rumors of a big announcement had everyone on edge. Cleaning crews polished every surface until it shined, while food staff prepared fancy displays of snacks. Darius came early, as he usually did. He liked the quiet of the morning to think before the workday started. As he went through security, he noticed several new faces in expensive suits being led to the executive floor. "Big day today," said Vanessa, the security guard who had been checking his badge for the past 10 years. "You might want to go up to the main conference room. I hear they're making the announcement before the general meeting." Darius nodded thanks and went to the elevator. When he got to the top floor, he found it full of his coworkers, all guessing about what was going to happen. "I heard it's a merger," whispered Samantha from accounting. "Quantum Horizon is buying us out." "No way," Keith answered. "We're too big for that. More likely we're buying one of their smaller companies." Gregory Palmer pushed through the crowd, his usual confident manner somewhat reduced. "All right, people. Let's act professional here. The board will make their announcement when they're ready. Until then, guessing is pointless." At exactly 9:30 a.m., the doors to the main conference room opened. The company's top executives filed in, followed by several strangers in perfect business suits. The last to enter was Alan Mercer, the mysterious founder of Quantum Horizon, whose rare public appearances had earned him a reputation as the phantom innovator of the space industry. Eleanor Brooks, the chairwoman of Astral Dynamics, stepped to the podium. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this special announcement. As many of you have heard, there have been talks between Astral Dynamics and Quantum Horizon about our shared future. Today, I'm happy to announce that we've reached a deal for a strategic partnership that will change our industry. A murmur ran through the gathered employees. To lead this new venture, we'll be welcoming a new CEO who will oversee both companies as we join our operations. This person brings amazing vision and technical expertise that will ensure we stay leaders in the space field. Gregory Palmer straightened his tie, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. It is my great pleasure to introduce the incoming CEO of our combined $2.1 billion enterprise, Dr. Darius Washington. The room fell silent before bursting into surprised applause. Darius rose from his seat in the back row and made his way to the podium. As he passed Gregory, whose face had lost all its color, he offered a small nod of acknowledgement. "Thank you, Eleanor," Darius said as he took position at the microphone. "For those who don't know me, I've been an engineer with Astral Dynamics for 15 years. What many of you may not know is that I've also been the secret founder and chief scientist of Quantum Horizon for the past 8 years." This news sent another shockwave through the audience. Gregory Palmer seemed to shrink in his seat. Our companies have been following parallel paths toward the same goal, revolutionizing space travel. Today, we unite those paths to create something greater than either could achieve alone. After the announcement, the executive floor turned into an unplanned celebration. Employees from all departments gathered in small groups, processing the unexpected news while enjoying the champagne that had mysteriously appeared on snack tables throughout the building. Darius moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations, with grace while making mental notes of those who seemed truly pleased, versus those whose smiles didn't reach their eyes. He had spent years watching company politics from the sides. Now he would need to navigate them as the most visible figure in the company. In a quiet corner of the executive lounge, Gregory Palmer stood alone. He held a glass of scotch and stared out the big windows at the city below. Darius walked toward him slowly, giving him plenty of time to notice his approach. "Nice view from up here," Darius said, coming to stand beside his former boss. Gregory took a long sip before answering. "I've had 15 years to enjoy it. I guess it will be yours now." "The view belongs to everyone who works for this company," Darius replied. "Which brings me to an important question. Do you still want to be one of those people?" Gregory turned to face him fully, surprise clear on his face. "You're not firing me? After yesterday's disagreement? Is that what we're calling it?" Darius raised an eyebrow. "A disagreement?" Gregory looked uncomfortable. "Look, Washington, Dr. Washington, I've been in this industry for 30 years. I've seen every kind of crazy idea you can imagine. You can't blame me for doubting yours." "Doubt is useful," Darius said. "Dismissal is not. There's a difference between questioning a theory and dismissing the person who came up with it." Gregory swirled the brown liquid in his glass. "So what happens now? You've made your point very clearly. I assume you want my resignation?" "Actually, no." Darius leaned against the window frame. "I didn't build Quantum Horizon or arrange this merger to get back at people. I did it because I believe in the technology and its power to change humanity's future in space. And where do I fit into this new world? You have experience that can't be replaced quickly. You understand the practical limits of space engineering. As you pointed out yesterday, that knowledge is valuable." Darius paused. "But so is new thinking. So is respecting the ideas of every team member, no matter what they look like or how they match your expectations." Gregory looked down at his drink. "And you think I can change to fit that?" "I think everyone deserves the chance to try," Darius replied. "The real question is, do you want to?" For a long moment, Gregory said nothing. Then he set his glass down on a nearby table and held out his hand. "If you're willing to give me that chance, Dr. Washington, I'd be stupid not to take it." Darius shook his hand. "Good, because we have a lot of work to do." 6 months after the merger, the newly formed Washington Dynamics unveiled its main project, the Pathfinder Initiative. A small team of engineers from both original companies had been working in secret, developing a test ship that would try out Darius's dimension pocket theory. The project headquarters was in an isolated building in the Nevada desert, far from curious eyes and possible spies. Inside its strong walls, some of the best minds in space engineering worked alongside theory physicists and computer scientists, all united by a shared vision of the future. Gregory Palmer, somewhat to his own surprise, found himself doing well in this new setting. After a hard period of adjustment, he had discovered that his talent for spotting practical problems made him a good balance to the more theory-focused thinkers on the team. The structure strength calculations don't account for the dimension stress at these connection points, Gregory noted during one late-night review session. He moved the 3D model, highlighting several areas where the ship's frame connected to the engine system. If these fail during transition, we lose the entire ship. Darius nodded, making notes on his tablet. Good catch. Let's strengthen those sections and run the tests again. Their working relationship had grown into something neither man had expected, a real partnership based on mutual respect. Gregory's practical approach complemented Darius's forward-thinking vision, creating a dynamic that pushed both men to do their best work. As the test ship neared completion, tensions in the facility grew. Despite careful theory modeling and countless tests, the truth remained that no one had ever tried to manipulate dimension space in this way before. The potential for catastrophic failure hung over every decision. We've done everything we can. With computer tests, Darius announced during the final review meeting, it's time for a real test. Elena Martinez, the head of safety protocols, frowned. The unmanned testing schedule doesn't start for another 3 weeks. We still have several safety procedures to complete. Not unmanned, Darius clarified. I'll be piloting the test ship myself. The room erupted in protests. Gregory's voice rose above the others. That's completely irresponsible. We haven't even completed the life support safety check. If anything goes wrong, Darius interrupted calmly, then better it happens to me than to a test pilot who didn't help design the system. You're not expendable, Gregory argued. You're the CEO of a $2.1 billion company. The board will never approve this. Darius smiled slightly. The board doesn't need to approve it. The test will be classified as a simulation until after it's complete. By then we'll either have proven the technology works or... He shrugged. Or we'll be explaining to your family why we let you kill yourself with experimental physics. Gregory finished grimly. I'm not planning on dying, Darius assured him. But this is too important to give to someone else. Humanity's next great leap forward deserves a personal touch. Later that evening, as the facility grew quiet, Gregory found Darius in the hangar, staring up at the shining test ship. The vessel was smaller than traditional spacecraft, its sleek design unlike anything currently in use. You know, Gregory said as he approached, I used to think you were just another theory guy with your head in the clouds. And now? Darius asked without looking away from the ship. Now I think you're a theory guy with your head in the clouds who's crazy enough to bet his life on his math. Gregory stood beside him, both men looking at the vessel that represented either their greatest achievement or their most spectacular failure. Which makes me wonder if I've been wrong about a lot of things. Darius turned to him. We're all wrong. Sometimes, Gregory. The trick is being willing to see it and adapt. That's something I think humanity has always been good at, when given the chance. The day of the test arrived with tension hanging over the facility. The test ship, now officially, named the Pathfinder, shined under the harsh desert sun as final preparations were completed. A small crew of essential personnel remained on site, while most of the team watched from a safe distance. In the pilot's preparation room, Darius put on the special flight suit designed to protect him during dimension transition. The material contained sensors that would monitor his body responses throughout the test, providing valuable data regardless of the outcome. Gregory entered without knocking, carrying a tablet with the final system checks. Everything looks good. No problems in any of the simulations. Good, Darius responded, sealing the suit's gloves. Any word from the board? They still don't know about the test, Gregory confirmed. Although I think Eleanor suspects something. She's been calling every hour asking for updates on the simulation. Darius smiled. She always was smart. Make sure she gets the live feed if things go well. And if they don't, then make sure the data gets to someone who can learn from it. Gregory put down the tablet and faced Darius directly. I'm still not comfortable with this. We could wait a few more weeks, run more tests. At some point, tests reach their limit, Darius interrupted gently. There comes a time when you have to trust your work and take the jump. He held out his hand. Thank you for everything you've done for this project. Whatever happens today, this wouldn't have been possible without your knowledge. Gregory shook his hand firmly. Just make sure you come back in one piece. I've gotten used to having you around. 30 minutes later, Darius sat in the pilot's seat of the Pathfinder, going through the final checklist as mission control counted down to launch. The ship's systems hummed around him, a mix of technology pushing the limits of human understanding. Pathfinder, you are clear for launch, came Elena's voice through the communication system. Dimension drive starting up to initialization settings. Understood, Darius responded, his fingers moving across the control panels. Beginning launch. Sequence. The Pathfinder rose silently from its base, floating fields holding it steady as it went up toward the open roof of the hangar. When it cleared the structure, Darius turned on the regular engines, pushing the vessel upward through the sky. Approaching transition height, he reported as the blue of the sky darkened to the black of space. All systems normal. Confirmed, Gregory's voice replied. You are go for dimension drive activation. Good luck, Darius. Darius took a deep breath, centering himself for what was to come. Starting dimension drive in 3, 2, 1. He pressed the activation sequence, and for a scary moment, nothing happened. Then a small vibration ran through the ship, building until it seemed that reality itself was shaking around him. Through the window, Darius watched as the stars began to stretch, turning into lines of light that bent in impossible directions. The universe seemed to fold around the Pathfinder, wrapping it in a pocket of altered space-time just as Darius had predicted. The familiar darkness of space rippled like disturbed water, then opened to reveal something else. For 9.7 seconds, a very long time in the context of the test, the Pathfinder existed partly in normal space and partly in what Darius had called dimension slip space. Then with a flash of released energy, the vessel reappeared in normal space. Pathfinder to control, Darius called, checking his instruments. Transition complete. Checking position now. There was a long silence from mission control. Then Elena's voice filled with disbelief. Pathfinder, we're tracking you at... This can't be right. Confirm your position? Darius smiled as he read the coordinates. Position confirmed, control. I'm currently in stable orbit around Mars. The journey that should have taken months had been completed in less than 10 seconds. The channel erupted with cheers and shouts. Through the noise, Gregory's voice cut through. Congratulations, Dr. Washington, you just changed everything. As Darius prepared the Pathfinder for the return journey, he looked out at the red planet below him. In that moment, he thought not of personal victory, but of the doors this technology would open for humanity. The stars, once impossibly distant, were now within reach. No, Gregory, he replied finally. We changed everything. Together. The return trip went as smoothly as the outbound journey. When the Pathfinder settled back onto its launch pad in the Nevada facility, the entire staff had gathered to welcome Darius back. As he stepped out of the ship, tired but triumphant, a wave of applause swept through the hangar. Gregory was the first to approach him, disregarding the usual post-mission protocols. The data is already coming in. Everything worked, exactly as your theory predicted, better even. The power consumption was 12% lower than our most optimistic estimates. Darius nodded, removing his helmet. We'll need to analyze the full data set before the official announcement. There are still questions to answer about the effects of longer transitions on both the ship and the pilot. Always the scientist, Gregory remarked with a smile. You just made the most important breakthrough in human history, and you're already planning the next test. That's how progress works, Darius replied. Each step forward reveals new questions to answer. In the days that followed, The Pathfinder team worked around the clock to analyze the mission data. The test had been more successful than anyone had dared hope, proving not only that dimension pocket technology worked, but that it was stable and repeatable. 3 weeks after the test, Darius stood before a packed auditorium at Washington Dynamics headquarters. Reporters from every major news outlet filled the seats, cameras broadcasting the event worldwide. On the stage behind him sat the board members, along with Gregory and key members of the Pathfinder team. "Ladies and gentlemen," Darius began, his voice steady despite the historic nature of the moment. "Today I'm pleased to announce that Washington Dynamics has successfully tested a new form of space propulsion that allows for near-instant travel between points in our solar system." A murmur ran through the crowd. The technology, which we call dimension pocket propulsion, represents a fundamental shift in our approach to space travel. Instead of moving through space as we've always done, we've found a way to move space around us, creating a shortcut through higher dimensions. Screens around the auditorium displayed footage from the test flight, including the moment when the Pathfinder disappeared from Earth orbit and reappeared near Mars less than 10 seconds later. "This is not science fiction," Darius continued as gasps filled the room. "This is not theoretical. This is real working technology that we have already successfully tested, and today we're announcing our commitment to develop this technology for the benefit of all humanity." The questions came fast and furious after his announcement. How did the technology work? When would it be available for commercial use? What were the implications for space exploration? Darius answered each one calmly, explaining complex concepts in terms the public could understand. Near the end of the press conference, a reporter from the Global Science Journal stood up. "Dr. Washington, there are rumors that this technology was initially rejected by Astral Dynamics before the merger. Can you comment on that?" A hush fell over the room. All eyes turned to Darius, then to Gregory, who sat rigidly in his chair on the stage. Darius smiled slightly. "Innovation is rarely a straight line. Great ideas often face resistance before they're accepted. What matters is not how an idea is first received, but whether we have the courage to keep pushing forward until the truth becomes impossible to ignore." He glanced back at Gregory, who gave him a small nod of acknowledgement. Washington Dynamics is committed to creating a culture where all ideas are heard and evaluated on their merits, regardless of who proposes them. That commitment is as important to our future success as any technology we develop. The final question came from a young reporter at the back of the room. "Dr. Washington, where do we go from here? What's next for humanity with this technology?" Darius looked out at the sea of faces, aware that he was speaking not just to those in the room but to the entire world watching through the cameras. "Mars is just the beginning," he said simply. "The stars are waiting." 1 year after the successful test of the Pathfinder, Washington Dynamics had grown into the most valuable company on Earth. The stock price had risen so high that Darius Washington was now worth over $50 billion on paper. But money was the least interesting result of their breakthrough. What mattered was how quickly humanity had embraced the new technology. Construction had already begun on the first commercial spacecraft using dimension pocket propulsion. Government space agencies around the world had signed contracts to retrofit their existing vessels, and thousands of young people had entered science and engineering programs, inspired by the new frontier that had suddenly opened before them. Darius sat in his office, looking out at the new Washington Dynamics campus that sprawled across the Nevada desert. The main research building was shaped like a wheel with the test launch pad at its center. 5 new prototype ships sat on their launching pads, each designed to test different aspects of the technology. Gregory knocked on the open door before entering. "The board meeting is about to start. They're waiting for you." "Let them wait a bit longer," Darius replied, not turning from the window. "I want to watch this." Outside, one of the prototypes was beginning its launch sequence. Unlike the original Pathfinder, this new vessel was much larger, designed to carry cargo rather than just a pilot. If successful, it would mark another important step toward commercial applications of the technology. Gregory joined him at the window. "The Voyager. Looks good. Elena says all systems are normal. This is the real test, Darius said. Anyone can build one working prototype, building them in numbers, making them reliable enough for everyday use. That's the hard part. They watched in silence as the Voyager rose smoothly from its pad, its silver hull gleaming in the desert sun. Unlike traditional rockets, there was no fire, no thunder of engines, just the quiet hum of electromagnetic fields as the ship ascended. It's still amazing to watch, Gregory said softly, even after seeing it dozens of times. It never gets old, Darius agreed. The Voyager continued to rise until it was just a small dot against the blue sky. Then, with a brief flash of light visible even in the daytime, it was gone, on its way to the lunar colony to deliver supplies that would have taken days to arrive using conventional ships. Successful transition, came the announcement over the campus-wide speaker system. Voyager reports stable orbit around lunar station, delivery on schedule. A cheer went up from the people walking across the campus grounds. Darius smiled. Even after a year, each successful mission was still treated as a victory. Now we can go to the board meeting, he said, turning from the window. I have some news. They might find interesting. The boardroom of Washington Dynamics was as different from traditional corporate settings as their ships were from conventional spacecraft. Instead of a long table with imposing chairs, the room featured comfortable seating arranged in a circle. The space was designed to encourage open discussion rather than top-down decisions. Eleanor Brooks, who had stayed on as chairwoman after the merger, called the meeting to order. Before we begin with the regular agenda, our CEO has an announcement. Darius? Darius stood looking around at the faces of the board members. Most were from the original companies, but a few new members had been added for their expertise in various fields. All had played a part in the company's recent success. As you know, our focus this past year has been on refining the Dimension pocket technology for use within our solar system, Darius began. The Voyager series has proven the commercial viability of the concept, and our government contracts are proceeding ahead of schedule. Board members nodded in approval. What you don't know is that a small team led by Gregory and myself has been working on extending the technology for interstellar travel. This caused a stir around the room. Even Eleanor looked surprised. Until now, we've been limited by the computing power needed to calculate transitions over such vast distances. But our research team has developed a new algorithm that solves this problem. We believe we can now safely navigate to the nearest star systems. That's incredible, said Linda Ramirez, one of the newer board members with a background in astrophysics. You're talking about Proxima Centauri, Alpha Centauri. To start with, yes, Darius confirmed. We've run thousands of simulations. The math works. The next step is to build a ship capable of making the journey. How long would the transition take? Asked another board member. Based on our calculations, less than 5 minutes, Gregory answered, stepping forward to stand beside Darius. The distance is much greater than anything we've attempted before, but the fundamental principle remains the same. We create a dimension pocket that allows us to step through higher dimensions, bypassing normal space entirely. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had spent decades dreaming of reaching the stars someday. Now, someday, might be just months away. I assume you're bringing this to us for funding approval? Eleanor asked finally. Yes, Darius said. We need to build a new ship from the ground up. The Explorer will be larger than our current vessels with more redundant systems and supplies for an extended mission. Once in the target star system, the crew will need to be self-sufficient until they can return. Crew? Eleanor raised an eyebrow. You're proposing a crewed mission for the first interstellar test? I am, Darius confirmed. And before you ask, yes, I plan to lead it myself. Gregory sighed beside him. We've had this discussion already. I still think it's unnecessary for you to go personally. And as I've said before, I won't ask anyone to take a risk I'm not willing to take myself, Darius replied. This will be humanity's first journey to another star. I intend to see it with my own eyes. The debate that followed was intense but respectful. Some board members argued that the CEO of the company was too valuable to risk on such a mission. Others pointed out the symbolic importance of Darius leading the expedition himself, just as he had piloted the original Pathfinder. In the end, the board approved the funding for the Explorer project, with the condition that the mission would only proceed after extensive testing and safety protocols were in place. As the meeting concluded and the board members filed out, Gregory remained behind with Darius. "You know they're right about the risks," Gregory said when they were alone. "This isn't like the Mars test. If something goes wrong 4 light-years from Earth, there's no backup plan." "There's always risk in exploration," Darius replied. "But imagine what we might find, Gregory. New worlds, maybe even new life. The chance to see things no human has ever seen before." Gregory shook his head, but there was a smile on his face. "When you put it that way, I almost want to go with you." Darius looked at him thoughtfully. "Why almost?" "What do you mean?" "I need a chief engineer for the mission," Darius said. "Someone who knows the technology inside and out. Someone who can spot practical problems before they become disasters." Gregory stared at him. "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious," Darius replied. "What do you say, Gregory? Want to help me make history again?" For a long moment, Gregory said nothing. Then a slow smile spread across his face. "When do we start?" 18 months later, the Explorer stood ready on its launch pad. The ship was unlike anything humanity had built before. 3 times larger than the Pathfinder, its sleek hull housed the most advanced technology ever created. Designed for a crew of 7, it contained living quarters, research labs, and even a small shuttle for exploring any planets they might discover. The day before launch, Darius walked through the ship one last time, checking systems and mentally preparing for the journey ahead. The rest of the crew was with their families, enjoying their last day on Earth before embarking on humanity's greatest adventure. As Darius entered the engine room, he found Gregory already there, running final checks on the Dimension drive. "Couldn't stay away either, huh?" Darius asked. Gregory looked up from his tablet. "Just making sure everything is perfect. We'll be a long way from home if something breaks down." 4 light-years, Darius nodded, but with the drive working properly, only minutes away in travel time. "Still hard to believe," Gregory admitted. "When I first called your idea science fiction, I never imagined I'd be engineering the real thing." Darius smiled. "Life takes unexpected turns. 3 years ago, I was just an overlooked engineer with a crazy theory. Now we're about to visit another star." They continued their inspection in comfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts about the journey ahead. The Explorer was the culmination of everything they had learned since the first Pathfinder test. Its systems were more robust, its safety features more comprehensive. If any ship could safely cross the gulf between stars, this was it. As they finished their checks and prepared to leave the ship for the last time before launch, Gregory paused in the main corridor. "I never properly thanked you," he said. "For what?" Darius asked. "For not firing me when you could have, for giving me a second chance when I didn't deserve one." Gregory's voice was quiet but sincere. "Most people in your position would have wanted revenge. You chose a different path." "Revenge is a waste of energy," Darius replied. "And people can change, if given the opportunity. You've proven that. Still, thank you." Gregory extended his hand. "It's been an honor working with you, Dr. Washington." Darius shook his hand firmly. "The honor has been mine, Mr. Palmer. Now let's go make history." The next morning dawned clear and bright. The launch had become a global event, with billions of people around the world watching live streams of the preparations. The Explorer crew, dressed in their blue flight suits with the Washington Dynamics logo, walked out to the ship as cameras flashed and crowds cheered from the viewing areas. Darius led the way, followed by Gregory and the other 5 crew members: Elena Martinez, the safety officer, Dr. Samantha Chen, the mission biologist, Dr. Marcus Johnson, the planetary scientist, Jordan Wilson, the communications specialist, and Dr. Layla Rodriguez, the medical officer. Inside Mission Control, Eleanor. Brooks watched from the director's station. Explorer crew boarding complete, reported one of the controllers. All systems are go for launch in T-minus 30 minutes. The pre-launch procedures went smoothly. Each crew member took their position, running through final checks of their respective systems. Darius sat in the captain's chair at the center of the bridge with Gregory at the engineering station to his right. Life support systems nominal, reported Dr. Rodriguez. Communications online, added Jordan. Dimension drive at optimal parameters, Gregory confirmed. One by one, each system was checked and confirmed ready. When the final checks were complete, Darius opened the communication channel to Mission Control. Explorer to Control, we are ready for launch sequence. Confirmed, Explorer, came Eleanor's voice. You are cleared for launch. Good luck and Godspeed. Thank you, Control, Darius replied. Then turning to his crew, let's light this candle. The Explorer rose silently from its pad, electromagnetic fields lifting it smoothly into the sky. Unlike the early tests, this launch drew thousands of spectators who watched in person as the ship ascended, a silver needle climbing toward the stars. Approaching transition altitude, Gregory reported as the blue of Earth's atmosphere gave way to the blackness of space. Dimension drive spinning up to initialization parameters. Crew, secure for transition, Darius ordered. Helmets on, harnesses tight. The 7 astronauts secured their positions as the ship continued to accelerate away from Earth. When they reached the calculated safe distance, Darius gave the final command. Initiate dimensional transition. Target, Proxima Centauri system. Gregory activated the sequence. The familiar vibration began to build throughout the ship, more controlled, now than in the early days but still powerful. Through the viewports, the stars began to stretch into lines of light. Transition in 3, 2, 1. The universe seemed to fold around the Explorer, wrapping the ship in a pocket of altered space-time. For the crew, the experience was like watching reality itself bend and reshape around them. Colors that had no names in human language flashed at the edges of their vision. The ship's sensors recorded data that would keep scientists busy for decades. And then, 4.7 minutes later, the transition was complete. The Explorer emerged into normal space, the vibration fading as the dimension drive powered down. For a moment, there was total silence on the bridge. Then the sensors began to feed data to their stations, and the reality of what they had accomplished hit home. Transition complete, Gregory reported, his voice steady despite the historic moment. All systems nominal, no damage reported. Position? Darius asked. Dr. Johnson checked his navigational displays. Confirming now, a stellar configuration matches. We are in the Proxima Centauri system, approximately 2.3 astronomical units from the primary star. A cheer erupted from the crew. They had done it. Humanity had reached another star. When the celebration subsided, Darius opened the communication channel. Explorer to Earth Control. Transition successful. We have arrived at Proxima Centauri. They all knew that their message would take 4.2 years to reach home at the speed of light. By the time Earth received word of their success, the Explorer would have completed its mission and returned. Sensors detecting multiple planetary bodies, Dr. Johnson reported, studying his screens, including one in the habitable zone. Set. Course for the habitable zone planet, Darius ordered. Standard approach pattern, let's see what's out there. As the Explorer changed course toward the distant world, Darius and Gregory shared a look of quiet triumph. The journey that had begun with a dismissed idea in a conference room had led them across the gulf between stars. Whatever they found, in this new solar system, humanity would never be the same. When they approached the planet, the crew fell silent once more. On the main screen, a world of blue oceans and green land masses came into view. White clouds swirled in its atmosphere, and readings indicated the presence of oxygen. It looks like Earth, Elena whispered. No, Darius corrected her gently. It looks like home. But it's something new. Something no human has ever seen before today. He turned to his crew, to the men and women who had trusted him enough to cross the void between stars. Let's go introduce ourselves to the universe.